We're recording the meeting. Okay, so I'll start over just a little bit. My name is Sarah Miller. We have Michelle Meyer, Sam Hahn here today supporting the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program at the CDA. We're going over how to apply for the program today and tips and tricks to be successful. This is our agenda. We'll talk about the basics of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, the application process, the concept proposal, some tips, and then we'll have a question and answer. Okay, perfect. So let's get into it. So the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program is a USDA AMS grant program, and it's managed by the CDA to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops in Colorado. Funds are distributed as reimbursements for project expenses. Specialty crops are fruits, vegetables, dried fruits, tree nuts, horticulture, and nursery crops, including floriculture. This is the AMS website at which you can find all sorts of information about the very specific crops that are included in this definition of a specialty crop. On this website, you can also find crops that are not included in that definition. So a very useful website here that I just wanted to take a moment to show. It's quite expansive. So here we get into the list of ineligible commodities. We'll go a little slow so everyone can see. Okay. So projects can focus on marketing, promotion, education, research, trade, nutrition, food access, and food safety. Projects must demonstrate a wider benefit to the specialty crop industry, and funds may not be used to benefit an individual farm or business. So for example, if you're a mushroom farmer and you're like, oh, I want to run a marketing campaign for my business, that would not be a project that would qualify. Or if you're like, I want to build a well, so that I can do research for this specific lavender strain that my one company is growing, that project also probably would not qualify. It has to benefit a wider audience there. So the more basics of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. So Colorado is the grant recipient, and we award funds to sub-recipients for the projects. The grant program runs from 2025 to 2028, and projects are a year and a half long. So the projects will begin January 1st, 2026 until about November 15th of 2027. So the extended program period gives the option to extend projects until the end of the grant program if needed. We have here, again on AMS's website, super useful place, previously awarded projects. So if you're interested in knowing what Colorado has awarded previously, you can go here. I believe when you start clicking around, you can see what kind of projects all states have awarded in the past. Okay, so let me click out of this one so that I can get back to, here we go. All right, so the purpose of the grant program is to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops by leveraging efforts to market and promote specialty crops, assisting producers with research and development relevant to specialty crops, expanding availability and access, as well as addressing local, regional, and national challenges confronting specialty crop producers. So here are some of the priorities. Applicants are encouraged to develop projects around the following issues that affect the specialty crop industry. Enhancing food safety, investing in specialty crop research, including a focus on conservation, environmental outcomes, adaptation, mitigation strategies for drought, developing new improved seed varieties and specialty crops, pest and disease control, increasing child and adult nutrition knowledge and consumption of specialty crops, improve efficiency and reduced costs of distribution, develop local and regional food systems, improving food access and sustainability. And then the Colorado Department of Agriculture also gets input from stakeholders about what is important in the industry in Colorado. And so some of the things that we've identified is we want to support the next generation of farmers. We want to scale up high value. I can't see what I wrote. I'm so sorry. Hold on, let me move this. There we go. Scale up high value agriculture and diverse market opportunities, invest in new ag technology, promote and incentivize soil, water, and climate stewardship, as well as labor issues and various other things. So we also have a stakeholder meeting. We try and get feedback from stakeholders every couple of years. I believe this year we're going to try and do that again. So if you're interested in that, let us know. So when we're reviewing projects, these are what we're reviewing projects. These are some of the guidelines that we're using. Okay, so this is the schedule for the program. The concept proposals are due by 5 p.m. on February 17th, 2025. And that's actually President's Day, I believe. We won't be in the office. I'll be online at 5 o'clock to turn off the application. So if you have any questions on that Monday, we probably won't be available. So get those questions in early so that we can give you all the help that you need if they come up. The application this year is a form that can be found on our website, and we'll go over that in a second. Concept proposals are scored by a team of reviewers in March. The papers are selected to go forward, and the process will be notified on or before April 1st. Complete full proposals due to the CDA are due by April 25th, because then we have to submit a state plan to the USDA AMS. And then May through September is a time when we'll be refining. The USDA AMS will ask us for edits to those plans, to those proposals, and we'll go back and forth with them to get our state plan approved. And then after the state plan is approved with AMS, we will contract with our subrecipients between October and December of 2025. And then, like I mentioned, the projects will start in January 1st of 2026. I believe. Oh, yes. One more. Okay, so here are some tips. Describe the broadest impact, write to a general audience, define special terms, include multiple letters of support if possible. One letter of support is required. Be as specific as possible in your budget requests. So let's take a look here at our website, the CDA website. This is the CDA's website for the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. It has a lot of the similar information that we've gone over. You can find it up here, ag.colorado.gov/markets/funding, Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. I usually type in SCBGP CDA to find the website every time, because this can be a little bit to remember. But this goes over it being a federal grant program administered by the CDA to enhance competitiveness. It lists some of the crops. It has the USDA website right here. Again, a great resource if you have any questions. If you do have any questions for us, you can find our email right here. And I try and get back to all emails within a day or two. You can see over here our program status is open. So how to apply. These are the instructions. So let's start here. Actually, let's go down a little bit. This is the schedule. So this is where we're at right here. The concept proposals open. We're at the live Q&A. They're due February 17th by 5 p.m. The committee review will be February 24th through March 14th. After the committee reviews and we have a discussion, we select projects, we'll get approval from our program director as well as the Commissioner of Agriculture. After everybody approves the projects, then we will send out emails letting those folks know that their project has been approved. If your project's not approved, we'll do our best to provide feedback. And then the second phase is invitation only. prior to April 1st, we'll request a plan that'll be due mid-April so that we can get those submitted to the USDA by May 1st. And then we'll go back and forth with the USDA on those edits, like we mentioned. The announcement of award funding will be September 25th. September 2025, excuse me, we'll do the contracting. The projects will start. The projects will end. And I think I've mentioned this, but the grant program is 3 years. So this gives us an opportunity to extend the project into 2028. So in addition to running your project, submitting invoices for reimbursement, there will also be reporting requirements. The USDA requires that grantees ask the subrecipients to submit a report annually. So even though your project is only running for a year and a half, you'll be submitting a report every year that the grant program is open to the CDA for AMS. So that is another little caveat that sometimes causes confusion with grantees. Their project's done, why are they still submitting reports? That's one of the requirements, and I just wanted to throw that out there. So let's go back to the instructions. Here we have some of the background, and this portion right here we've discussed. This is the informational webinar. Here is the USDA website again. This goes into some eligibility. And this has some acceptable projects. These talk about the priorities. This talks about the CDA's priorities. So Colorado has approximately $700,000 to award projects through the 2025 specialty crop application period. We haven't confirmed that with USDA, but that's what the number has been in the past. So that's what we are anticipating this year as well. Grant funds are available only for projects that support specialty crops grown in the state of Colorado and are intended to supplement, not replace, private, state, or third-party participant funding. You can provide cash or in-kind matching contributions, but it's not required. There are a list of allowable and unallowable costs that we can reimburse based on AMS's terms and conditions. That document is linked here. Let's see, funds can't be used for publication costs, out-of-state travel, can't be utilized for paying down debt, can't be utilized for capital expenditures, general purpose equipment, and various other things like that. This just gets into the nitty-gritty of what's allowed. If you have a really great project and something's not allowed on your project proposal, we'll work with you to fine-tune those categories. Okay, so this just goes into the timeline again, which we've already discussed. Okay, so this is the questions, the scoring, the review criteria. We're going to get into the application, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but this will let you know whether it's a scored question or not. The scoring is out of 100. So the project purpose, the plan, you can see here that they have scores next to them. The budget, and then where is the other one? External support is the other 25 points. So this also goes into a little bit more detailed about the reimbursement, the insurance that's required, indirect costs are not allowed, disqualifications, review criteria, review process, notification and feedback. If you have any questions, you can find us there. Conflicts of interest, post-award requirements. The main one is going to be an annual report submitted to the CDA for AMS every year for 3 years. Okay, so those are the concept proposal instructions. So after you've read through all of those, which you can find here, You can find under the helpful resources. You can find right here as well on our websites. Then you'll click here, the specialty crop concept proposal form. And I have made that into a PDF so we can look at it together. Let me see if I can click on it. Here it is. Okay, so this is the application. I have tried to put as much information on it as possible that will lead you down the right path to fill out the application. Again, this is the point: leveraging efforts, assisting producers, expanding access, addressing local and regional national challenges. We have the link again that talks about what specialty crops are included. These are the project types. So you'll fill out an email. You'll want to put the name of your business, the type of business that your organization is, whether it's an educational institution, a nonprofit, a private corporation. You'll put that there. You'll want to write the project coordinator, who is running this project, who's going to be the main point of contact. We'll want their name right there, their phone number, and the email address. If there's going to be additional people that's working on the project who are going to be important that need to be in the know, go ahead and list them on question 7. And then this will be the mailing address. You have to have a unique entity identifier to be able to apply for this grant program. If you don't have one, you can find it right here on this website. You can't submit a project proposal without one, so make sure you get that. And then we're getting into more questions, asking if you're a beginning farmer, veteran farmer, or underserved farmer. We have the definitions for you here below. And then we ask if your project will benefit beginning farmers, veterans, or socially disadvantaged farmers. And if so, please explain. This is question 12 is for the title of your project, the anticipated start date. So it has to be January 1st, 2026 or later. If you put December 31st, 2025, we might look at that. And then the end date also has to be November 15th, 2027. So if you put November 15th, 2029, your project proposal will most likely not qualify. So then we're asking, what are the specific specialty crops that will be used? And again, I have a list linked here, the website that we looked at, so you can take a look at which crops are allowable and unallowable. And then this is where we're getting into the outcomes and indicators. So we've talked about this, that this is the guideline for the program. This is a requirement. You have to select one for your project. Select a focus. So I'm going to scroll. So you have to check at least one, but you can check more than one. And then based on that measurable outcome, we want you to list an indicator and an anticipated value impact for the indicator. So under all of these outcomes, I have listed all of the indicators. And this is something that comes directly from AMS. These are their outcomes and their indicators. And these will be what we're using to evaluate your project. So you have to select one outcome and at least one indicator. It doesn't have to be all of them, but for every one outcome, it needs to have at least one indicator. And so sometimes people will select more than that. That's totally fine, but it has to be at least one. And I put it all right here so that you can just copy and paste. All right, there's quite a few, so I won't go into all of those. Okay, so now we're getting into project information, and then we describe the difference between, we describe a project right here, and give some examples, some activities. And then here we're asking in 500 words or less, identify the specific and existing issue, problem, or need that this project will address, and explain why the proposal is important and timely for the specialty crop industry. So what's the issue, and why is this proposal important and just in time to help work on this problem and solve the issue? And so After you describe the problem, then we want you to describe the project and how the work will solve the issue mentioned above. List the activities that will happen during the project, some of the timelines for completing those activities that align with the project period that we've mentioned, and explain how the project will enhance the competitiveness of Colorado specialty crops. And then here we're asking if your project includes climate smart practices, and if so, to describe those. And then we want to know how your project, the problem, the activities, will accomplish the outcomes and indicators that we asked you to identify above. And right here, it says explain how data will be collected and information will be shared with other specialty crop stakeholders and will not solely benefit one organization or business. Projects will be chosen based on their potential to produce the highest degree of measurable benefits to Colorado specialty crop industry in relation to each dollar spent. See data collection tips here. And this is a document that came from AMS. And so it has data collection tips right here that I think is super useful. And it goes into detail for every single outcome and indicator and gives some tips. So please copy. Yeah, I'm just going to scroll all the way down so that you can see it's very, very informative. Okay. And then here we're asking, will this be a continuation of a previous year's project? Yes or no? If it builds on a prior project, describe how the project differs from, complements, or builds on the previous work. If it doesn't, just write NA. And here we're getting into the budget. So this is another a graded portion. This is a list of allowables and unallowables directly from AMS, what we're allowed to reimburse for, what qualifies for the program. Oops. Alrighty, let me get back here. I give some very general, sorry, these are the categories very specifically that you can use for your project. So we want you to list the grant funds requested for each category, the amounts needed, and an explanation. So I just have a very small, very detailed, yours will be much better than mine, example budget right here. These are the budget categories. There are no other budget categories. This is the amount requested, and this is an explanation. Your explanation will be much better, and it'll be connected to the activities that you've described. So just for an example, personnel expenses will cover staff salary, person X, Y, and Z to do X, Y, and Z for the project. 20% fringe. Staff will travel to 2 locations to check on field sites, meet with growers, equipment. I didn't put anything down there. Supplies, we're going to need these supplies. They're X, Y, and Z. Contract work, we're going to hire X, Y, and Z contractor to do such and such a job. Other expenses will include such and such. And then, the total amount in these categories should equal the total amount requested here. And we're checking your math a little bit because then we're asking you in the very next question to write that total number here to carry the 1. And then here we're asking if there's any matching, not required. So you can see there's no little star here. Any income that you expect to make from the project and how the funds will be used. This is a question that gets asked on the state plan, so I threw it in here just so we can get ahead of all of those types of conversations. And then we're going to get into the grant management history. We'll examine funding requests carefully for previously funded activities to ensure that the projects are likely to become self-sustaining and not indefinitely dependent on grant funds. So specialty crop is not meant to fund your project year after year after year. Funding decisions are based on sub-applicants' past performance. Specialty crop stakeholders other than the sub-applicant individual and organizations involved in the project, continuation and support of the project. I did not format that very well. I'm sorry about that. So here we're asking if you have received grant funds through the Colorado Department of Agriculture in the past. Yes or no? Any department. It doesn't have to be through the markets department. And then we're asking here if you have received those funds, if you can list the years and the grant programs that you were awarded. Um, Here we're asking for names and funding sources of grants that the organization or researcher has received in the past 5 years, other than from the Colorado Department of Agriculture, because specialty crop is a complicated grant to administer, and experience with state and or federal grants will be considered in the selection of specialty crop applicants. It takes a lot of time to run a project, to manage the tracking of expenses, to submit invoices, and there is frequently a lot of back and forth. So we want to make sure that the projects we're selecting will be capable of managing all of the administrative work that's required. And then here we're asking for support letters. You'll need to upload your support letters in one PDF. You can have from 1 to 5. Maybe you have one really good one, but 5 is even better. And that is the project. I forgot to mention here on the budget that you'll also need to upload your budget right here in this section. So that is the grant application, the whole thing. And let me go back to our website. And you can once again find that button right there to apply. If you have any questions, we are here to support you via email. Like I said, I try and get back within a day or two. And I want to be able to answer any questions and help you along the way and provide all of the resources necessary so that everyone is successful and feels good about the project that they're submitting. So that is my presentation. Does anyone, let me go back here. Does anyone have any questions?
Sarah, there's one question in the chat from Vanessa, and she asked, can you give us examples of who we could get letters of support from? Question,
Oh,
are there
sure.
specialty growers in our field or CDA staff?
Yes, absolutely. So I would say that in the past, like if you're, for example, going to be submitting a project proposal to study a specific cultivar of grapes, then there would be like the wine board would be a good place, and various other professional organizations would be good people to get letters of support from. If you're submitting a proposal about potatoes, maybe CPAC would be a good other professional organization. Other stakeholders, other farmers who are experiencing an issue in that region would be a good person to get letters of support from. Oh, I feel like I had an example of a letter of support and I didn't click on it. So let me go back to that and just show you really quickly. So this is just a basic letter of support. Dear Specialty Crop Block Grant Program Committee, we're an organization that does X, Y, and Z. We are potato farmers in the whatever region of Colorado, or we're wine growers out in Palisade. We're dealing with this issue, and ideally it'll be linked back to the issue that you described on the application. It's affecting us in such and such a way. We've seen it, affecting other producers in our area in such and such a way. We are supporting this project that the organization is proposing because we believe it will help us and other producers by solving this problem. So that is an example of a support letter, and that's also linked in the application as well for you to take a peek at that. But really, anybody who has a stake in the issue, anybody who is also experiencing the problem, anybody else who would benefit would be a good person to get a letter of support from. Does anybody else have any other questions?
There's a couple more in the chat. I'll just go ahead and read them for you.
Thank you
Hopefully
so
that's a little
much.
helpful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Sahara had asked about getting a PDF of the application. I had replied that I know it's a live Google form, that if he needed assistance, he could let us know in some other way. Is that a
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that because I think previously we have put a PDF of the application so you could see it in its entirety before, but I am happy to email that to you. I think I have a list of emails from this live Q&A, so I am happy to do that after the session today to send that out to you in an email so you can take a look at that. And maybe we can get our communications department to load the PDF of the application onto our website so that everybody else can have access to it as well.
Yeah, Sarah, I think that's fully possible.
Okay.
We can work internally to get a PDF on the website.
Okay, great. I think that that would be amazing because I know we have a previous example of 2024's application, but it has changed just a little bit from last year to this year. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll make sure that that gets done.
Great. Another question here from Jake. Does the Unique Entity Identification, UEI, provide priority for applicants across the board when applying for grants?
I don't think it provides, I guess perhaps yes, it's a requirement of the program. I think that that's an AMS requirement. So because it's their requirement, it's also our requirement. If you don't have that number, we will not be able to accept your application. Amanda,
Yeah, I was just going to
can you
add to
add to
that.
that? Thank you so much.
It's not a priority status thing. It's just a requirement to actually submit an application and get an award from the USDA. And if you need help with getting a UEI, there are resources through USDA to do that, and we might be able to help direct you to, I guess, to a more direct resource to do that.
The
Thank you so much.
website, oh, sorry. The website is linked on the application where you start to get that.
Great. Another question in here. Do the letters of support need to come from organizations or people within Colorado?
Well, that's a good question. So I would say that the whole point of the specialty crop block grant program is to increase the competitiveness of Colorado crops. So I guess I would have to see the letter to know if it makes sense for it to not come from Colorado. But ideally, the project is going to be benefiting producers in Colorado. So it does seem like it would make more sense if it does, but I would have to again like look at it on a case by case basis. I can't think offhand last year if there were people. We did accept a project from an organization that was outside of Colorado, but their project was benefiting producers directly in Colorado. Maybe they had a letter of support from a previous state that said, oh, this project was amazing. They did such great things for our state with this program that they're trying to bring to your state. Please consider their proposal. So perhaps that was one, but I didn't check. That's a good question. Maybe. Maybe is the answer.
I don't see anything else in the chat at this time.
Okay.
Just go back and look. Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, I have a question.
Okay.
So does the fund support grad students, their tuition or their stipend?
It does. We do work with some educational institutions and graduate tuition assistance is part of their applications for those grad students to work on the program, to work on the project.
And is the funding per year when you want the budget? Because you mentioned it's going to be 3 years, right? Is it like if we apply for 100K or 50K, is it would be per year or you want it all together?
It's not broken up per year. The funding will be available through the project award period. So we'll create a grant agreement with you, and it'll be that 1.5 year long grant agreement timeframe, and the funds will be available for the project through that 1.5 years, with the option to extend for another year. And in that instance, then it would be available for those 2.5 years.
Okay.
But
So
you don't have to use like 50,000 the first year and then 50,000 the second year. You know, things happen. Sometimes people will submit a project and the first year they plan on getting out in the field, and then, oh, well, it wasn't a possibility to get out into the field, so they have to push that work back to the next year. And that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all.
But when we apply the 50, if we apply 50, that would be for the whole 1.5 years, basically.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. What other questions about the specialty crop block grant program are there? Any
Couple
points?
more.
Oh, great.
Sorry. Couple more got dropped in the chat. One was, what is the approximate average size of previous awards?
They vary from $12,000 to $105,000. Ideally, when we look at a project, it needs to make sense. So if you're just throwing everything in there to get as much money as possible, that isn't what we would like to see. We would like to see it very dialed in, very specific, that the project is well planned, that the finances make sense. So if you have a big project, that's totally fine and you need a lot of money, that's great. If you just have a small marketing project, that's also totally fine. It should just be high quality. It should be benefiting, you know, a broad Colorado producers. And like I said, just well planned, well defined, well explained, but there isn't like a high limit or a low limit.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, another one for you. Can you explain about the outcomes and indicators a little bit more?
Okay.
And the follow-up question to that is, do they need to put a specific dollar amount for each outcome and indicator?
Okay, let's go ahead and go back to these outcomes and indicators. So like I said, this is an AMS requirement. The grant program outcomes and indicator, sorry, let me read. The grant program outcomes and performance measures outlined before reflect direct stakeholder feedback and provide a framework that allows grant recipients to evaluate project activities more accurately in relation to each program's purpose. Please review them and then select an outcome and indicator with a value. So we'll go for the first one. So say your project is to put on a cooking demonstration, and you want to put on a cooking demonstration. And so you're going to say, well, I'm going to put on this cooking demonstration, and the total number of consumers who gained knowledge after my presentation is going to be 100, because you want 100 people to attend. And of that, then you'll come down here and say, of that number, it's going to be 50 adults and 50 kids. So it would be something like that. Now, say you want to put on a presentation for people in Colorado about eating more peaches. And so then you would say the total number of consumers who consumed more specialty crops, maybe that would be 50. That would be another example. That's probably not as good of an example. So the project, can you read that question to me one more time so that I can make sure I'm not just rambling here? What did it say?
It's all good. Just was looking for an explanation on outcomes and indicators.
Okay.
And then do they need to put a specific dollar amount for each one of the outcomes?
Okay. So, right. So if you selected 1.5, then you would need to put dollar amounts, or you would need to put percent change, but it's not always going to be dollar amounts. Like in this instance, it's going to be the number of consumers instead. And like I said, you don't have to choose every single one. You have to choose one outcome, 1 through 7, and then one of the indicators that is listed under that number. So this one is also number, this is number, this is number. If it needs a dollar amount, then it'll ask for a dollar amount. Does that make
Okay.
a little bit
This
more
is Caroline Gray. I'm the one that
Okay.
typed that question in. Thank you. I just wasn't exactly sure, but that makes more sense.
Okay.
Looking at number of people and only dollar amounts if you're doing that specific one. Thank you.
You are welcome. Are there other questions in the chat that I can answer? No.
There's nothing else in the chat right now.
Okay. Is there anything else that anybody else wants to ask about? Or comments? Concerns, questions, suggestions?
Sorry, I have another question.
Great.
Me again. So if we have collaborator, I'm from Colorado State University, and we do have a couple collaborators that they are interested in a project that we are doing.
Okay.
What would you recommend? Like putting them as a collaborator or putting them as a group of the like co-PIs and PIs? What do you see people do mostly in these cases?
I guess it would depend on your project. Like if you guys are equally managing the project and you both want to receive all of the emails about everything that's happening, then I would say uh, that then go ahead and put them down here. But if if you are running, the CSU is running it, and then you're collaborating off to the side to do a smaller portion of it, then maybe just write that down in the list of activities. Oh, during the project, we're going to be collaborating with X, Y, and Z organization to host a webinar. And if they only have like a small part of it, then maybe just list that lower. But if you guys are running the whole thing from start to finish together, then I would say that would qualify as an additional contact. That would be a pretty solid 50-50, split of the work. You're both invested in it. And that would be great information to have in this additional contact section.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Down the road, if we have additional questions, is there someone I can contact directly to just kind of bounce ideas off quickly?
I will be that person. I will be in the inbox. I will be answering all of your questions within one day. If you say, oh, Sarah, I am a farmer. I am not a typer. I am not an emailer like you. Can you please call me? Here's my number. Then I will call you. That's totally fine. Some people don't want to be typing a million questions. I will go back and forth and email with you all day if you have questions that you need to be answered. It is a little easier for us for email because that way then all of the managers get to see what the conversation is. That way when we're having the conversation and we need to go back and you say, oh, well, Sarah, you said this, we can just look at the email. Did I in fact say this? Or was this a broad interpretation? But it's totally fine. If we have a phone conversation, I'll usually just follow up on email and say, thank you for the conversation. This is what we discussed today to make sure that everyone is on the same page. But yeah, that specialty crop email that's listed on our website, that's the best way to get in contact. I'm in there every day. I monitor it. It is my home and my friend. We will be friends. We will be in contact, not a problem at any point if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I will be in touch.
Okay, I will be here. We'll chat later. Okay, any other questions, concerns, comments, notes, feedbacks about the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program? We're very open to any feedback. We are very interested in improving the process for everyone to make sure that it's fair, it's equitable, because it's very exciting, the projects that come in. It's really great to see all of the great work that happens with the Specialty Crop Program, and it's a lot of fun to do. So if there aren't any other questions, then I will go ahead and stop the recording and end the meeting here. And feel free, please, to reach out with any questions. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, let me figure this out. Pause, stop.